Welcome to the Stirring the Gumbo Pot podcast, the podcast about the history, the culture, and the accomplishments of Black people. This podcast aims to inspire, educate, empower, and celebrate the lives of Black folk. I am your host, the Cajun Peach, and thank you for tuning in. Now let's get this pot stirring. Hello, everyone. And thank you again for joining me on another podcast episode of Stirring the Gumbo Pot. Today, we are at the halfway mark of our month-long tribute to, I'm going to say, Black women. It's Women's History Month, and I have partnered with Ms. Valerie Jefferson of the Women of Action, ATU Union, Amalgamated Transit Union chapter here in New Orleans. And she and I have dedicating a whole month to women. And so she has another special guest for us today, and I'm going to allow Ms. Valerie to introduce her.
Hello, everyone. I am so happy that you are here joining us today. I am delighted. I am so excited. I say this every episode, right? But I am so excited today as well to introduce to everyone a COO. She's a Chief Officer of Operation of Bright Moments Marketing Company business in New Orleans, Louisiana. So I'm going to introduce to you Mrs. Caryn Rogers-Battist. So Caryn, tell us all about yourself. Tell us about you.
Hi, thank you, Cajun Peach. Thank you, Val, for allowing me this time to come before you this early afternoon or early evening. My name is Caryn Rogers-Battist, native New Orleanian. Went to high school at McMain. You know, we always have to say what high school we went to, being from New Orleans. Went to school in Lafayette, came home after graduating with a bachelor's degree in business and specializing in marketing. And I have been fortunate enough to work in the area of marketing my entire career. I am, of course, a Christian first. I thank God for that. Been a member of Franklin Avenue Baptist Church since 1995. Started off in the old building, the first one, then the renovated one, and then now we are off of Service Road. But in between that, worked at Pizza Hut for about 16 years, handling all their marketing before I went and started working for the family business, which is Bright Moments, which is an ad agency, family-owned business that's been around for about 40 years. This year makes 40 years. We're celebrating as a small Black-owned advertising firm here in New Orleans. I am also active on several boards, which are intentional, the Jazz and Heritage Foundation Board, as well as the Audubon Institute Board. And then I am married to Todd Anthony Battist. And the reason why I say that, because I got married later in life. I have no kids, but I have an amazing niece and nephew who I am so proud of.
Thank you, Caryn. Also, the next thing that's very important, especially as a female, than as an African American female, but we just gonna say as a female, do you see any difference from your experience? I'm glad you did tell us about your education because that's very important as well. So, but from your experience working from Pizza Hut's management team, moving to Bright Moments, do you see a difference between the female and the male in the business industry in the workplace?
Absolutely. Most workplaces are male dominant. At Pizza Hut, it was male dominant. As a matter of fact, when I started, everybody that was on the executive committee, with the exception of maybe one person, were all male. The owner, the person that's over operations, your accountant, your marketing person, all were males, and 50%, in some cases majority, were white males. So any place that you go, if you look around in the workforce is a male dominant place. And then through behavior, when you interact with people, even in the workplace, and the reason why it seems like there's such a difference, like as far as how women are treated, is because men will relate to women the way that they see a woman and how they grew up in their life, home, how they grew up at home, how they interact with their wives, their significant others, and stuff like that. It is no different. So it's a harder climb, and in relationships, especially with your husband, it's hard to really be heard because of how they see us. So it's no different. I think it's challenging, especially as a Black woman in the workplace first, because not only you're not heard, but you're not seen, because we live in a society that's bent on color versus being a part of the human race. So that is always going to be a challenge, no matter where we go, no matter how high we get up. As long as we are African Americans in this world, in the way that we have been defined, it's hard for us to be heard. It's hard for us to be seen. And the louder we talk to try and get our point across, then, everything starts to focus in on our emotions. And that's why we're called angry, aggressive, whatever other negative tone that can come that's affiliated with it. So there is a major difference in a male and female in the workforce, especially even in a position that is an executive position. I'll give you this one story right quick. So when I was at Pizza Hut, I think maybe 2 years into my job, I became marketing manager. They allowed me to have about 4 people under me. And then within 2 years later, I became marketing director. So the person that was the director at the time was somewhat upset because he was going to school for finance, but he wanted to do a dual role. He wanted to be over finance and he wanted to be over marketing. So when I was called to say, hey, you're going to take over all marketing, it was not an easy ride. And although this franchise owned company was Black owned, it still was not, an easy transition. He refused to give me any of the documents that I needed, no training. The way that things are, from an operation standpoint, in order for you to turn in any type of invoicing and stuff like that, you had to have a code system. I did not get anything. So the guy who was Simon Watson, bless his soul, he was over operations. He called me in his office one morning. He gave me everything that I needed, and then me and my team had to come to office at 7 a.m. to try and self-teach everything that I needed to know about the marketing, because I had a supervisor that refused to let me in on anything. And then I started calling the vendors, and the vendors would come in and literally teach me, what it is that I needed to know so that I can get my job done. So it's real.
Whoa. Oh, yeah. So, well, that's going. You when you was telling that story, had me think about another story. So, as um, as a female, maybe just as an employee, it's best to have I'm gonna say a good personality, a good attitude, a good background to make it in the business industry, such as do your groundwork, such as going to school, do your studies, get connected with the right people that's in your field. But as a female, do you think it's best for us as female to do the extra thing, to do the extra, go the extra mile? Like when someone tell us to read a chapter, we need to read the book. When someone tell us go an inch, we should go a yard. Someone tell us to go around a block, we should do 2 blocks. So can you give us any encouragement from your experience, just like you just did about that story? I'm glad you shared it because that was very encouraging. Um, that you letting us know that you right then you went the extra mile because you was willing to humble yourself and to learn. That's your Christian background, willing to learn for the betterment of the company and plus yourself. But can you give us some encouragement for the female, for the woman can go an extra mile to have this or her task be more productive?
So what happens is, you know, in my relationship with Christ, everything that, for me and how I operate is giving God the glory. So whatever that looks like, through his guidance. So anything that I'm about to attempt, it could be the smallest project or the largest project. It's like I am going to him for guidance, wisdom, and discernment. Whatever that looks like, then it's more on him than it is on me. So, for that particular incident that I described, it was through wisdom. Okay, someone has given you the opportunity. I have opened this door. What are you going to do to sustain yourself and sustain the people that you're responsible with? I could have easily just complained and, came up with all kinds of, I don't have this, so that's why I can't get the work done. But in giving him the glory, because the fact that he gave me the opportunity, it's like, okay, wisdom set in and say, and God sent me a ram in the bush, which was the operation manager. He gave me the information that I needed so that I can go and teach myself, which luckily with my whatever training, for me it was my educational background as my training taught me how to take simple things and build upon it. That's where all those projects come from, essays, presentations, you name it. When you're in college, those things help you and prepare you for this moment. So you could give me one little thing and I can build upon it, but it's not necessarily me going the extra mile. It's me doing whatever it is set before me. So whether the job is small, whether the job is big, whoever I'm working for, it's like giving him the glory and just putting my 100% into it. Um, and if that means that, and sometimes it may not necessarily appear to be, where I'm giving it my all, but I know I'm showing up and I'm showing up with God. So that's kind of like the difference. But but some people, whatever you do, never make something your idol and never make something your God. Because it's like, women feel like I got to do, this extra and stuff like that. It's like, no, you only do what God has planned for you to do. He's going to give you all the tools and the resources that you need to get the job done. And you have to rest in it. Because without that, that's where you get hit with worrying. You're over concerned about things. You start to stress out. High blood pressure. All those things become a part of it. I love the fact that Cajun Peach has a name. Cajun Peach. That right there is something that feels good. So if you got a name like Cajun Peach, you ain't gonna be frowning and oh woe is me. It automatically it speaks to who you are, and that's what your work should speaks to who you are. It should not define how you live. So
Oh,
Right.
thank
Right.
you. That's encouraging. Thank you. We really appreciate that. So on that note, we're gonna shift it just a little bit uh about personal and professional, right? So balance. Let's think about balance. So in your professional opinion, and think about your personal, your family, your friends, and your position as executive. You think uh, that we can handle as female, have both personal and a personal and a personal and a professional life, and be balanced about it. So give us your point of view
yeah.
about that. Okay.
So everything in life is a season.
Okay.
So if you are first starting off, with your career, whatever path that you led, then that probably become your focus. And you're going to do everything that you can to get into the right space, during that time period, because that's your season and that's your focus. Then there comes a time whereas, okay, you're deciding that you want to have a family. For women, someone, court us and then, ask for our hand in marriage, so things starts to shift. So when those things start to shift, okay, then you have two things that you have to focus on. Both of them are important, but one is more important than the other because of the fact that it involves a commitment and a covenant that you made with that person, and with God. So, with that understanding, you have to say, okay, now this is where my focus is going to be. So therefore, with my work, there has to be a cutoff time. Physically, there has to be a cutoff time, and mentally, there has to be a cutoff time. And then you start adding kids. When you add kids, then it's like, okay, you still have to keep your husbands first. You have to make sure that the kids are taken care of, and then you have the job. So it's like, for a woman, it's three areas, especially if they're a working woman, that they always have to be, conscious of. So when is it time for me? That's why women love going to the salon, or they love going to get their nails done. As long as you have at least an hour or two in your day, or sometime over the weekend, whereas I call it like a mental download, where you just take time to do nothing, and you just allow somebody to do something simple for you, just to help you in balance it. And then you go to another season where the kids are gone, the husband is into his thing, the job is, what the job is and stuff like that. And then you seem like you're starting to have a little bit more time for yourself. And then probably at that time, you're starting to do things with your church more, or you're sitting on, boards that you might have been appointed to and stuff like that. So everything is in a season, but you have to understand, like, what defines me in my life outside of work. Work doesn't define me, but I decided that I want to get married. My husband and I, that's very important. My kids are very important. And the things that I do to help me mentally to download, to make sure that I can be good to all those people, is also so important. So, it's a balance, but, you have to control the narrative.
Oh, thank you. Now that was professional and well said. Because when you were speaking, I was thinking about, you do all things decent and in order, right? You study, show yourself approval, but at the same time, you have to be kind to people and be professional. If you want a person to be kind to you, you have to be kind to the other person, right? But at the same time, though, you're representing our creator, that's God himself. So thank you for being a Christian professional. Well said and well done. We are almost at the end of this episode. Oh, time has passed by so fast. But since we're at the end, Miss Baptiste, I really appreciate it if you tell the audience some encouraging word, like you've been doing the whole time. You've been doing this the whole time. But give us something that we can think on and meditate on, because we are valuable. We are female. We are valuable. My mom tell me, listen to this. My mom tell me that the man is the head, but we are the neck, right? That means the neck turns the head. I needed to throw that out. That's old school, my mom. All right. So thank God
I
for
love it.
mama. So, but in your um in your God-given gift as a professional and as a wife, as the number one auntie TD in the world, can you tell us can you tell us something that we can meditate on and give us encouraging when we're in that dark place?
So each of us are given an assignment. And I just learned this recently, with this class that I'm taking, this Bible study. So each of us are given an assignment. And in order for us to be successful with the assignment, our character has to be aligned. If our character is not aligned, we're going to make it to the top, because our talents will never go away. God has given us a gift. And it's not, no one can take it away. We can sit on it, so we all have a gift. So often we see people do extremely well and their talent is just soaring. And then the next thing you know, the fall from grace. And, I've learned, and that's because the character did not align with the assignment. And in order for us to be in alignment, it depends on how we build our character. And building that character is through our relationship with Christ, through prayer, through Bible study, attending church. worship service, being in a group of women that are praying women that encourage you, knowing God's word, understanding his promises. Because when you are given an assignment, and as we climb this ladder, especially women on a mission, it's not going to be easy. We already spoke about how, as a woman, we're not heard. And then as a Black woman, we're not seen. So we have all of those obstacles that's coming against us. If we're not strong in our character, we will never, ever complete the assignment that God has placed for us. Because once we have the character aligned with the assignment, there's nothing no one can do to stop the progress. And then once you complete that assignment, and then it's on to the next. But all of the character building is also a building of our faith. And our faith help us sustain just about anything that come against us. So if I'm standing here right now in this position, it has nothing to do with me. It has everything to do with the assignment that God has laid before me. And it's been years of him building my character so that I can stand and sit before you. And thank you for this opportunity. So
Thank you. Thank you. I want to turn it over to Miss Cajun Peach. But when she was telling us about that, giving us a last encouraging word, well, Miss Peach, it reminded me of when I look back at your first podcast, it reminded me of you telling us about your story as well. So I want to encourage everyone to go back and listen to Miss Cajun Peach's first episode and her second episode. She tells the story how she became Miss Cajun Peach podcast. So thank you for that. So I want to thank you again, Mrs. Caryn Rogers-Battist, for being our guest today. You was very encouraging, very empowering, and enlighten us and let us know that we are valuable. We need to put God first. And when you said that, it made me think about my 3 hours. My 3 hours is release, relax, and rejoice. And I do all of that in Jesus. So I'm gonna thank you again, Miss Baptiste, and I'm gonna turn it over to Miss Cajun Peach. And I thank you again, Miss Cajun Peach, for sponsoring the Women Caucus. We really appreciate you. Thank you.
yeah.
You're quite welcome, Valerie, as always. And to just go back to you throwing it to me and my first episode, my story of how I got here was really it was a challenge, I think, but I was just tired of being stuck and not lining up, like Caryn said, with who I really am, my purpose in life. And my purpose in life was not to, I don't think, be an administrator or a grants manager or any of that, right? So something in my soul just kind of burns, like you have to get out and you have to live your passion. And so I said, that's it. This is the year. I'm going to get out there and do it. But you have to be intentional, right? It has to be intentional because a lot of us, many of us, we settle and we just kind of relax and we get comfortable in our daily lives and in our careers. And you get stuck like that, especially if you have a passion to do something else. And so I just encourage, like I always do, women to not settle and to live your life with intention and purpose and see where it takes you. You never know. Get out there and be fearless and be the best version of yourself that you can be. So that's it. That's my take on the conversation that we had today. Thank you so much, Miss Caryn, for joining us
Thank
on
you.
this episode of the Stir in the Gumbo Pot. Like I said, this is the halfway mark of our Women's History Month tribute. And we've got one more. This is the third of 4 parts.
Yes.
Next episode, we're going to be talking about women's mental health.
Yes.
So I hope everybody tunes in for that episode coming next week. And that's it. Thank you guys for joining us. And everybody stay blessed.
Bye.
Bye.
Well, it's poetry time. Today's poem is Still I Rise by Dr. Maya Angelou. You may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies. You may trod me in the very dirt, but still, like dust, I'll rise. Does my sassiness upset you? Why are you beset with gloom? 'Cause I walk like I've got oil wells pumping in my living room? just like moons and like suns with the certainty of tides, just like hopes springing high, still I'll rise. Did you want to see me broken? Bowed head and lowered eyes? Shoulders falling down like teardrops weakened by my soulful cries? Does my haughtiness offend you? Don't you take it awful hard, 'cause I laugh like I've got gold mines digging in my own backyard. You may shoot me with your words, you may cut me with your eyes, you may kill me with your hatefulness, but still like air I'll rise. Does my sexiness upset you? Does it come as a surprise that I dance like I've got diamonds at the meeting of my thighs? Out of the huts of history's shame I rise, up from a past that's rooted in pain I rise. I'm a black ocean, leaping and wide, welling and swelling I bear in the tide. Leaving behind nights of terror and fear I rise. Into a daybreak that's wondrously clear I rise, bringing the gifts that my ancestors gave. I am the dream and the hope of the slave. I rise. I rise, I rise. Well, that wraps up another episode of the Stirring the Gumbo Pot podcast. I really appreciate you all listening in and for being a supporter of the show. So in the spirit of Don Cornelius, I wish you all love, peace, and gumbo.
Too lit, who gon' check? You can tell me none. Boss mode in effect, and my money long. If you ain't talking money, don't talk to me.